The regularly scheduled city council meeting for the city of Fairhope. We're going to go ahead and have Pastor Kyle Parker with Eastern Shore Presbyterian Church lead us with a prayer, followed by the pledge.
Let's do pray. Father, as we turn to you, it is fitting for us to turn to your word and to hear from it who we are and how we are to govern. You say in your letter to the Romans, "Oh, the depths of the riches and wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable your judgments, how inscrutable your ways. Who has known the mind of the Lord? Who has seen its counsel? Who has given a gift to him that he might be repaid? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To him be glory forever. I appeal to you, therefore, by the mercy of God, to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is a spiritual service. Do not be conformed to the world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, acceptable, and perfect. Father, we turn to you as we cry out to you for wisdom and insight in remarkable times. Times where our country and individual cities are torn asunder by protest and concern, a great sense of distress on lefts and rights and fronts and backs. We pray for these officials that they would govern us well, grant them great wisdom and insight. We thank you for those that enforce the law and do so with great grace among us. We ask, Lord, that you would grant these leaders great wisdom as we face remarkably difficult times financially, and they are charged with governing well and generously. We pray, Lord, that you would grant them insight and understanding and care as they look to see our city governed in ways that are inviting to all. We pray, Lord, from the areas where they have to decide the use of our city, its future, that you grant them good insight and a great collegiality to work well with one another. We thank you for our great city. We pray that you would continue to bless her richly, and that we would in turn yearn to bless and pray for and be committed to our officials. And we're thankful. In the Lord's name, amen. Amen. Thanks, guys.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Parker. Appreciate that. All right, before we get started here, council, I've got two things to consider. One is to, we've got an add-on of a site plan review and approval. And let me just see if y'all be willing to consider adding this to the agenda tonight. This is the one Hunter talked about in the work session, but it would be to add on a site plan review and approval request of PSGC Properties for the site plan approval of Alpha Care, a single unit clinic, and this is part of the Greeno Professional Village PUD. So we talked about that a little bit in council work session, if y'all would consider adding that. And then the other item we discussed a little bit in council work session, item number 12 for the rec department and the soccer league. Mentioned we may want to table that item for retooling of the language, and because I think there might be some people here to speak to that, I was going to suggest moving that up to the very front of the meeting so that they don't have to wait.
Is there any difference in tabling it and just removing it? If you're tabling it,
yeah.
you're removing it.
Yeah, we could just remove it.
I want to make the motion to add the site plan review and approval resolution and to remove item 12 from the agenda.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, no one opposed. All right. Is that at least, or does I have one more step of action I've got to take there to walk that other one on? We're good. All right. So if anyone was here for item 12, it's been scratched. I guess if you do want to speak to it in public participation, we would allow that at the opening part of public participation. So, Mayor, your report.
Need to approve the minutes?
Oh, thank you. Council, have y'all had a chance to review the minutes?
We have.
Would you
I
like to
move
make a
that we
motion?
approve the minutes as submitted.
All right.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Y'all gonna be busy tonight.
Can we just have a standard set on this, or do we have to do this every?
1, 2. All right, motion second. All right. Mayor, your report.
Thank you. I just want to remind everybody about the July 4th holiday celebration, of course, which will be next Monday. We'll have our standard concert on the bluff with the Ball and Pops. Looking forward to that. And then, of course, the fireworks at 9 p.m. So hope everybody will come out for that. Also, I want to thank the council again for considering the agenda item, considering the pay increases for the employees. I appreciate y'all being open to that and having discussion on that. And also, we'll address this in the council meeting on the water conservation, but also want to make sure everybody knows that we are placing flyers on trash cans to educate people about the water conservation ordinance. And that is simply because we had a lot of comments that there's a lot of people who are not on social media or who are not getting emails about the information. So I want to make sure everybody had accurate information on the ordinance itself. So thank you.
Is that it, Mayor? Thank you very much. All right, at this time, we'll go ahead and open the floor for public participation. Again, this is for agenda items only. Please come forward and give your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Jim Peck, 413 Azalea. I just got, and I agree with your moratorium on water, but I just got some questions. I used to live on Fish River on the east side, and I was served by Fairhope water. My question is, how far do we know who all the users are? And how do we communicate to those small users? And our car washes ID'd as a big user of water. Not just curious, I just, what if, and, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'd be happy to answer those questions. Is that okay, Council President? Yeah. So that's one of the attempts is obviously the garbage cans are only going to be for people inside the city limits. If we have to go to the mandatory phase, there would probably be a postcard mailing to people outside of the city limits, but we are not anticipating having to go to the mandatory phase right now because our usage has dropped. So we probably would do that if we had to educate them on that. The other thing is car washes are outlined in the ordinance, but it does allow them to continue to operate.
Until you go to phase 2, and then.
It allows them to continue to operate
Oh, really?
regardless.
Okay.
It does.
Okay, because they're the maximum user. Okay, well, that just popped up whenever you started your, survey. So we know where everything is, all the uses.
Mayor, I don't believe it's just people that live within the city limits. It's all city of Fairhope water system users,
That's right. But we're
Okay.
only putting the flyers on trash cans, which will only be in the city
okay.
limits. And if we had to go to the
Okay,
mandatory
all right,
phase,
okay,
yeah,
thank
we would do
All
postcards.
right.
So if it gets
I would-
bad, how do you know that people on the other side of Fish River who's on Fairhope
Right.
water?
We would.
That's what she's saying,
right.
mailing.
We would do a mailing, a postcard mailing
Okay.
to those folks
I
if
guess.
we had to go to the mandatory phase.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Charlotte. I live off of Ingleside. I love Fairhope. People are moving here in droves. We're very blessed to live here. But we are busting forth at the seams, as everybody knows. That's why we're here talking about our infrastructure, water, sewage, electric, etc. I thought there was a building moratorium for 2 years. I don't know when that ends, but I'm seeing yellow signs that says subdivision request. This one's off of Nichols and Ingleside, that green and white house that was supposed to turn into a Mexican restaurant. Now I'm seeing subdivision request, an application to subdivide this property has been requested. For more information, contact City of Fairhope Planning Department and the phone number. So that's at that green and white house off of Nichols and Ingleside. And then there was another one of these yellow signs for a subdivision request on County Road 32, when you cross the Fish River Bridge where you could see the river. There was another one of these yellow subdivision requests. Anyway, I'm all for people, I know they want to move here. I'm just saying we need to get our infrastructure in place, right, before building. So again, I thought there was a building moratorium for 2 years. I know the contracts that were originally signed will be fulfilled regarding new building, but I didn't think we were going to allow any new building to take place. So why are we seeing these yellow subdivision request signs?
Hunter, would you like to address and the moratorium is for 12 months.
I thought it was originally for 2 years. Okay. And then lastly, does anyone, never mind, I don't want to ask that question.
Okay.
Or insinuate anything. It's just people are talking. They wonder if anybody has connections with building developers, or if anybody has relatives with building developers. I know that there's a person on the Daphne City Council that is in land acquisition for D.H. Horton. So that's a conflict of interest, I think, to be on a city council and you work for D.H. Horton in land acquisition. I think there your judgment's cloudy. So I'm just saying that's in Daphne. I don't want to by any means accuse anybody of that. I know y'all are all noble men and women that want to really, you love our city, you want to be part of our city. You wouldn't be in position where you are if you didn't love the city. So I hope all your, everything you do, you seek it out in prayer, and you use wisdom like the pastor prayed, that you're really noble and want to be part of what you're doing because you care about our city, and everything that you're doing, you don't have an ulterior motive. But I just feel like I said in Daphne, using that example, he should not be on the council. So anyway, so thank you very much for.
Thank you. And Hunter may be able to address some of the concerns about the.
Yeah,
This is our planning director.
it's really hard. We kind of talk about this every time, and I never mind rehashing the details of our moratorium. It is for 12 months. It is not a building moratorium. There is no moratorium on building permits. So people will see things that have had permits or under construction or planned. It also does not apply at this time to anything within inside the city limits, which includes the property on Ingleside. That is an MOP, so you'll see that. That will be on our Planning Commission agenda next Thursday. So the one on 32, that is known as Lone Oak, that application was originally received in November before the moratorium ever, not just December, but even, I think a couple, maybe even we received it in September, but that has been on the books for some time before the moratorium. So a moratorium, by law, you can't implement a moratorium just to stop an application you've received because you don't like it. So, you know, those are explanations of why the yellow signs and why you're seeing those. I think even today we've had a discussion on them, because I don't think we foresaw all the development within the city limits. So that is certainly a conversation we've been having, you know, whether the moratorium needs to apply to more area. You know, that's evaluations that were kind of taking place every day. And tomorrow will be our applications we receive for the August Planning Commission meeting. So to date, we haven't seen a slowdown. It stopped from outside the city limits, but we kept seeing applications within inside the city limits. Pretty big developments. As you said, acknowledged, some of those are even earlier than 2002 that are just getting developed. So, you know, we're evaluating that every day, and we talked about when to come back to council and say, okay, here's what I'm seeing, and really need to get through this month and maybe next month to see what we start intaking in. How much of this was already on the books before we implement a moratorium? If this is sustained, you know, for a couple more months, we might need to consider whether that's, or I might consider requesting that to be inside the city limits.
Okay.
That'll obviously be a conversation that.
All right, thank you. Thank you for addressing that. Yep. All right, floor remains open for public participation. Agenda items only. All right. Seeing no one, we will go ahead and close the floor for public participation. Councilman Martin, before we get started, I know you were running late today. You had other obligation, but we have added a site plan review to the council agenda, and item number 12 was removed from the agenda tonight. There was some conversation in the work session about the language in the resolution, and at the time it was decided it would be best to just pull it, revise it, and bring it back forward. So at this time, Councilman Burrell, turn it over to you for council comments.
Yeah, I have no conflict of interest in the city of Fairhope. I own no land, and I don't even have any relatives here. So, except for the house that I own, that's it. But, so I gave committee reports in the work session on the airport authority, a short report on rec board, but you had asked me to maybe update people on the
Please.
MPO. Mayor Sullivan and I are the Fairhope representatives on the Eastern Shore Metropolitan Planning Organization. I'm sure you probably saw the news this week that we moved the needle a little bit, and that ALDOT continues to be able to pursue a plan within the framework that we gave them, which was to allow for a toll-free route across the bay. That would be the causeway, the Bankhead and Wallace Tunnel would remain free, and the Africatown Bridge would remain free. You may say, well, it should. Well, in the arrangement that we shot down several years ago, there was the potential for the concessionaires, which were the people in the public-private partnership, to control all of those routes. And there was a provision in there that they could toll any of those routes in the future at any time of their choosing. Well, we shot that down. Now, the project is going to be completely taken on by ALDOT. There are no concessionaires. There's no public-private partnership. Nobody to come in there and make massive profits. Nobody to control those routes. Unfortunately, and don't think that anybody on the MPO is in favor of tolls. We don't want any tolls. But we imposed a maximum of $2.50 in our framework. Well, ALDOT went out and they did their traffic modeling and their financial modeling, and they came back and they said that they could fit within that framework. That was a couple of months ago, and then last week they came out and said that if you buy a monthly pass for $40, an unlimited monthly pass, and by the way, that's offered to anybody in the country. You can live in Seattle, Washington, and buy that for $40, and it's unlimited. So if you are a daily commuter, you travel that every day, that comes down to less than $1 per crossing. If you go there multiple times a day, the price goes down. And while nobody likes that, I think that over 80%, something like 84% of the people in South Alabama, in a poll taken, in a scientific poll, I've seen some unscientific polls, but in a scientific poll that was taken, 84% of the people said that we need a solution, and that we need a solution now. And so this gets us closer to a solution to having, if you're taking the Bayway, a very small toll, or you can still traverse it for free if you choose to take the causeway. We view that as good news. There are going to be naysayers that say the federal government should be paying for all of it. We don't disagree with that, but they're not going to pay for it, so we're doing the best we can.
Thank you for that update, and good job on coming to that resolution. Councilman Martin, council comments?
Yeah, I just want to publicly thank the mayor and Pat. I think Kevin came out. They had the Juneteenth over at the Rotary Youth Club. It was a good turnout. We had great vendors. Lots of people came out, kids, families. It was very, very hot. But other than that, if you haven't been by the Rotary, it looks fabulous. They've laid that white stone down, or white rock down, for like a semicircle right there in the gates, and it looks really, really good with the landscape. In Three Circle Church, God bless them, came out, and the mayor went out one Saturday and really fixed it up. So just want to give kudos to the people that are working on that, and job well done. So that's all I have.
All right, Councilman Boone?
Okay, I would like to reiterate what Jack said. I also have no conflict of interest.
Well, if we're doing
We
that.
are, and out of this whole bunch, I'd be the one that did it, 'cause I used to work extensively with him. But I've retired 8 years ago, so I haven't done any work or anything on them. Other than that, I hope everybody has a nice, healthy, safe 4th of July. Enjoy yourselves and be safe.
And my only comment was echo what Councilman Boone just said about the 4th. Have a happy, safe, healthy 4th, and be back around after that. So next item up on the agenda, we have a final adoption, and this is ordinance to amend ordinance number 1253 zoning case 2203, and this is a proposed amendment to change and alter the City of Fairhope zoning ordinance to revise Table 3-1, the zoning use table for District B3A shall be amended to allow hotel motel use permitted only on appeal and subject to special conditions. Zoning District B3B shall be amended to allow bed and breakfast use permitted only on appeal and subject to special conditions, and change a hotel motel from a use permitted subject to general ordinance standards and conditions to use permitted only on appeal and subject to special conditions. Hunter, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes,
just
sir. Thank you.
addressing that.
And I will kind of skip through here. Some of these slides, the explanation was that we've discussed this at the last council meeting, so anyone would like to see that full discussion, it is on YouTube. I'll kind of hop to the summary page. And what we're doing here is not allowing a hotel on any property that's not already allowed. But what we're doing is adding a separate review procedure for that use, whether it's appropriate for that particular site within B3A and B3B. They are allowed in B3A right now by right. The properties on the screen there, the dark blue is B3B and B3A is your light blue. So for reference, a lot of this is around the pier, the park. Hotel is allowed by right. We'd be proposing that would be allowed, special exemption type uses are reviewed, and a bed and a breakfast is allowed by right. We make no proposals to change that. In B3B, that is the dark blue, and primarily you'll see a lot of that around the marina. And then between the CBD and the kind of before you get to the drop off to the pier, that is most of our B3B. Hotel is allowed by right there. We would propose that be changed to allowed with Board of Adjustment approval. And a bed and breakfast actually is not allowed at all. That's, in our opinion, is a less intensive use than a hotel. So it should be almost encouraged on some of those properties instead of a hotel. But we do propose that with Board of Adjustment approval, that could be an allowed use as well. So this did, as a amendment, this did go through Planning Commission, and they unanimously recommended approval. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
All right, council, I know we discussed this some at our prior council meeting. Does anyone have any questions for Hunter or any comments about the proposal?
Well, Hunter, can you kind of go over by right and the change in the wording of by right real quickly, just so I have clarification, and what we say when we say permitted only on appeal and subject to special conditions? What's the pathway to making that decision?
So by right, and this is kind of before our existing use table, if you will, and the proposed. That tells you what uses are allowed in each zoning district. Anything with a dark full circle right there is a by right use, meaning you have no approval of the use that you're proposing. So it might still require an MOP, it might require obviously a review at your building permit, but it doesn't require an amendment to the use. The blank circles are a use only available on appeal and subject to special conditions. The appeal procedure in Fairhope has for many years been an appeal to the Board of Adjustment. The subject to special conditions are the things that they can review. So they might look at that and say, hey, you need more parking, or you need to provide more green space, or many different things within the appeal of that. So there's a review, much similar to a site plan we will be doing tonight, but instead of where a site plan is about how it physically looks, the review is more about the use, and then the challenges to not only that particular site, but those around it. And if that's where the subject to special conditions come in.
Okay, so in a nutshell, these will go to a Board of Adjustments as far as to make a decision whether we're going to put a hotel somewhere or not.
Yes.
All right, council, any other questions for Hunter on this? Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for final adoption.
All right, we've got a motion for final adoption.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Clerk, would you call the question?
Place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
Council President,
Aye.
place 5.
Aye.
All right. Ordinance passes. Thank you, Hunter. You're still up. So number 6 is a site plan extension request for FST Magnolia Church LLC for site plan approval of Magnolia and Church mixed-use development, a 10-unit project. Property is approximately .51 acres and is located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Magnolia Avenue and Church Street at 301 Magnolia Avenue. And the site plan was approved on July 12th, 2021. The request is for a 180-day extension that would expire on January 8th, 2023.
And just one, I do not see the applicant here, so if there was questions there.
It's two different.
The, looks like our council packet has the one that was walked on.
Greeno Road.
We
Oh,
did
no.
not, this was an extension, historically, we haven't put the whole project in the packet. 'Cause
Now, I think what
this
they're
just
saying
an
is
extension.
in place.
There's nothing in our packet.
This
the
says-
Item number 15 is in place of 6.
Yeah, because, Laura asked me about this morning, and I was so confused. It has church, but when I read in depth, it's on Greeno.
But item 6 is for the Vance
This is all we
McCown
do.
project at Magnolia and Church. And
Well, it doesn't.
the
it's-
site plan was approved, but because of,
That is strictly an extension, and the
Yeah.
site plan is at the end.
yeah,
That was supposed to be just put at your place.
yeah, this
Table.
is just, this one is
Somebody
just
put
an
it in there.
extension on number 6. And that is a 6-month extension.
What?
Yeah, number 6, if you look at the agenda, that may have, item number 15 accidentally got put in place of number 6 on there, but number 6 is just a site plan extension.
For Alpha Care.
No,
No,
sir.
sir.
This
Okay,
is,
This is for Magnolia.
I understand your confusion.
I don't know, because, I don't know what we're doing, but, okay.
if you go off the written
The site plan that's in
agenda,
your book should have been put just on your table. It was put in the book by accident.
yeah, so, and we will get to that one at a later point in the meeting, so don't delete it. But this request is just for an extension of a site plan that's already been approved, asking for an additional 6 months.
They have a year to start development, get a building permit and start development.
Do you think they're going to make any changes to that site plan in this 6 months? You know, a lot
they
of
do,
times
they'll
we have
start
these
over.
PUDs that get approved and then nothing happens for 2 years or 5 years, and then 5 years later, they say, we can't make any money with that. We want to change everything, and they come back to us and some that's already been rezoned, and I always get upset that, you know, it's just a way to make more profit when you say you sold us this bill of goods 5 years ago, and now you want to change everything that you sold us on. So, and I know this is only for 6 months, but I'd like to know if they're, and since we don't have a site plan in front of us, I'd like to know if they're talking about changing things.
That locks it in. This site plan is what's approved. They will not be
Yep.
changing, or they're gonna have to start over.
Okay.
And I will say, if I recall, I think I was on planning commission when this came to planning commission, and there were actually a lot of neighbors that came out and spoke in favor of this project. And it
there
stood
was
out because it's a
lot
little
of
unusual.
approvals. So this had a Board of Adjustment approval, this planning commission, city
Yeah.
council, they had to go to a tree committee, you know, there was a lot of steps to work.
And there was some pushback from the city about the original presentation about the trees and,
They drive and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it may just be that all the maneuvering around between that and everything that's been going on with construction and supply chain, maybe having to relook at things. I
So
don't
it
have an
would
issue with
expire
that.
on January the 8th, and they would have to go through the process all over again if they didn't.
Correct.
Our precedent, and I've looked at, and we did one on Bay Break, they got 2 extensions, so they got an extra year. That was another project, but site plans like that have historically kind of been given to an extra year extensions. But yes, without another extension, January 8th starts, and they have to start this whole process.
Okay, let me tell you another problem though with that. if we wanted to put a moratorium on multiple occupancy projects, and we let this sunset and we didn't grant the extension, then we're going to be reluctant to do what we might need to do because, or would this be grandfathered into something like that?
That would be, however, we had that same conversation in this moratorium. It was where do we want to draw the line on what's been approved? You know, and that's where I think there's some legally, I don't think we recommended to put a moratorium on things that we'd already received an application for, because I think that would just wind up in lawsuits that we'd lose.
But an application that went through the process and got approved and then expired is a
Now, if
totally
it
different
expires,
animal.
that's a totally different animal. But anything that's approved here, and I guess worst case scenario around January 6th or whenever that Monday, next council meeting before that is, you'd have to figure out if.
You'd have to do
if
it
you
in
wanted
December
to-
before
what we were
Christmas,
dealing
probably,
with
yeah.
at that time, whether you want to give an extension or let it expire.
Yeah. The reason I say this is because I agree with the young lady. I think that we maybe need to do more within the city limits to slow this development down.
Well, any
So you're saying
further?
we'll make that decision, sorry, Councilman.
No,
President.
go
So
right
you're
ahead.
saying you'll make that decision at that point with a development like this, with the extension on it, as far as
Right now,
seeing the future and I mean,
right.
right.
Right now, our moratorium is only outside the city limits, not applicable here. If we have that conversation, we need to consider projects such as this and how they will either be impacted or how they can be, what other options we have. We have, we've already rectified a lot of the one we talked about earlier from 2002. That's a PUD without one development lot on it. But there are PUDs out there that have sat for years with no expiration on them. We've corrected that moving forward. So there's still things on the books, and this one, if given the extension, we would have another chance to evaluate that in 6 months. So we can, by no extension, you can put it to bed now and it can go back through the whole process for review. Or we can look at that, and if it still hasn't been developed, and I'm highly encouraging to get a permit, get started. Because that's really all it takes, is getting the permit and getting started on construction. If it takes 10 years to finish, that's okay. I actually applaud that. That's slow. Sometimes building it slow is a better product. So.
Council, any other questions for Hunter on this? Again, this is a 6-month extension being proposed. Would anyone like to make a motion on it?
I'll make a motion to extend it.
All right, we've got a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion?
Rather reluctantly, but it only has until July the 8th, right?
January 8th.
Well, no, with the extension, January 8th. It would expire July the 8th.
It was July 12th.
I'm sorry, July 12th.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposition? All right, motion passes. Item number 7 is a resolution that the City Council of the City of Fairhope hereby officially declares a water emergency pursuant to ordinance number 1682 and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to implement any or all phases. Phase 1, water alert, Phase 2, water warning, and Phase 3, water emergency to avoid further strain on our infrastructure and to protect health, safety, and welfare of the City of Fairhope water system users. Mayor, would you like to readdress this? I know you covered this in the work session, but did such a good job, we'd like to hear it again.
Like I said, unfortunately, I think I can recite it in my sleep. So tonight, we are asking you to just pass this resolution declaring an emergency, giving me the authority that if we get to that point, that we can move to the second phase of this. Right now, we have been in the voluntary phase. Again, this ordinance does quantify when you would move to the second phase, which means that our water demand would reach an average of 80% capacity over 7 consecutive days. The past 3 days, we have seen a past 3 or 4 days, we've seen a drop in temperatures. We've actually had some rain, which has helped. On Sunday, we actually only used 7 million gallons, which is great because our capacity is between 9.2 and 9.3. So people are heeding our warnings. They are, being partners with us in conserving water. So, and again, I did mention in the work session that for us, it does give us a time to kind of reflect and sit back and look at our own practices as a city and look at some things that we can do to better conserve water when it comes to, watering our plants or the splash pad and other areas of the city. So I think it's a good time to remind everybody that, sometimes we can be a wasteful society, so it's a good time for us to look at our practices and conserve where we can. But tonight, again, we are going to stay in the voluntary phase. This just will asking the council to pass this resolution to give me the authority to move to the second phase if and when it becomes necessary. But at this time, we will stay in the voluntary phase.
And a sincere thank you to the citizens that have gone above
Absolutely.
and beyond, because they've taken a lot of pressure off the system. I know it's an inconvenience, but it made a difference.
It did make a difference. Yes,
And,
I really
and
appreciate
so
that.
that is appreciated. And then I know I mentioned in the work session, things like Quail Creek is watered from the ponds on the
Right.
property. I just want people to know, because you read all kind of things on social media.
Right.
So
And we will continue to reduce the hours of the splash pad. We do want to look at trying to reclaim that water to be able to reuse. Again, when that splash pad was built, it was, it was not, at that time, the cost of reclaiming the water was really expensive. The city opted not to do that, but we do want to look at some practices to be able to reclaim that water. And I did want to mention too, Hunter up here talking about the moratorium. Hunter and I actually talked today about coming to the council in August and kind of reviewing the moratorium, telling you where we are, where we might need to go forward, and having some conversation about that. And again, this is one of the things that prompted that conversation, because we do need to look at, where we're seeing developments come in that may have been on the books for a while. Is it something we need to do in the city limits? So we will be evaluating that in August, probably at one of our work sessions. Okay.
And again, after a conversation with you, we've got plenty of water in the city of
We do.
Fairhope. It's the size of the pipe trying to
Correct.
distribute it.
Correct.
So,
Yes, our aquifers are good. We have the water. We're building wells. We're doing the things that we need to do. Working with developers, holding their feet to the fire, upsizing lines when we need to, making them contribute to our system to not only benefit their development, but to benefit our system as well. So we are doing those things. A lot of it's just kind of a perfect timing. The wells are not complete. We don't have a water line in that we need to have, put in the ground. So supply chains, pipe is, 8 months to a year out. So there's a lot of factors at play here, but I do want the citizens to know that we have plenty of water. Having plenty of water is not the problem. It's the size of our pipes and getting it to where it needs to go is the issue.
Well, thank you, Mayor,
Okay,
and thank you,
thank you.
Jason. I appreciate y'all. And council, would y'all like to make some comments or address
I would,
this?
Council
Yes, sir.
President. Well, first of all, we're not under a water alert. We're not even in phase one, because until we declare an emergency, which we haven't voted on yet,
That's correct.
then you have to have 7 consecutive days
Right.
using 7.44 million
That's right, right.
gallons is the trigger for that. We know Sunday, and Sunday doesn't count anyway, yesterday doesn't count, but we were at 7.
That's right, so
So
we're
even if
not
we
in an
got 6
emergency.
days in a row and we only use 7 one of those days, the clock resets.
That's
So,
right.
the triggers have always been in place, and the mayor's done a good job of really alerting the people. The mayor already put out an alert and asked people to
did.
voluntarily do this. So, I see the media's here and, the word emergency. This really doesn't change anything.
It doesn't.
We're just formally declaring that so that these trigger points, if they are hit, would allow the mayor to spring into action. But especially the voluntary phase, we're not even in one now, but I think the mayor's right to have already asked for one. So nothing really changes. Don't let the word emergency think that this is
Right.
huge moment.
That's right.
Okay?
And again, I think it's always a good time to look at our practices and revisit those and things that we can do to conserve, like limiting the splash pad hours right now. We're going to continue to do that because it seems to be.
About water, because I'd never even
We're-
realized that wasn't being recycled.
I had a conversation, and we were talking about some other stuff, and had a conversation with one of the engineers who's going to hopefully help us look at that. And
Thank you.
yes, let us know what we can do to change the piping up a little bit.
Yeah, we need to look at that across town as well, as far as, we talked about this a little bit, as far as the irrigation systems, the golf courses and things
Right.
like that. Wastewater, to use the wastewater
Right.
instead of our drinking
it-
water. This is just a preventive,
Correct.
it's always good to be out front of things. We don't want to call an emergency. So to do these things to prevent us having to call an emergency is the right thing to do.
And this was already in place in 2020, so
Yes.
it's already been there.
Yeah.
Councilman Boone?
So, last year we had to do the same thing. It only happens in these hot summer months, and unfortunately this year it got real hot. And you just have to deal with it, just something you have to do until the improvements are, put in place.
I want
When
to
winter
say,
comes, we're gonna be in great shape.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if I
sir.
might, there is one other, factor in that's going on with the development, and we say this a lot, and we get a lot of people that come through this room, a lot of citizens, but keep in mind that the vast majority of the development is coming in outside the city limits, but they're in the areas for which we provide water service. And we darned if we do, or darned if we don't. If we tell them, no, you can't build it, they'll just build it in the county. They're still going to require the water services of Fairhope because we don't allow the other utilities to cross our lines. So, you could call that water wars, because if you allow them to cross it, then they could infringe upon any of our services, water services, or sewer, or electric, for that matter, if you allowed it. So it's pretty complicated, but the majority of the explosive growth is occurring in the unincorporated areas of the county. And these people ask to annex into the city, yes, they do. But if we were to tell them no, well, they would just build those 300 homes in the county, and we'd still be providing them these services.
Well, and there's not
Because
water.
they're within our
right,
water
Right,
jurisdiction.
and there's no other water lines here. I mean, Belforest
Right.
Water and Riviera, they're not going to come this far. They don't have water
And I don't
lines
think you ever want to
here.
set the precedent that
No.
they cross over into your jurisdiction.
Right, no, correct.
And good comments. Council, would anyone like to make a motion, or do y'all have any further
So
discussion?
moved.
Got a motion?
Yeah.
And a second? All right, you got a motion and a second. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Mayor. Next item up, item 8 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope authorizes submission of a fiscal year 2023 Transportation Alternative Set-Aside Program TAP grant application to ALDOT to construct new pedestrian facilities in Fairhope, and authorizes Mayor Sherry Sullivan to sign all required documents on behalf of the city. Total projected estimated cost not to exceed $999,092. It's an 80-20 match, and the city's estimated not to exceed would be $199,819. This would be for sidewalks between Blue Island and Fairwood.
I move to submit the grant application.
All right,
Second.
we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the TAP grant, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement for labor for the replacement of the east side drainage at the municipal football stadium by Asphalt Services for a total cost not to exceed $27,610, with the city supplying the materials. This is an unbudgeted item, and it is corrugated pipe that is out of commission and has created a sinkhole over there on the visitors' side of the football stadium.
So moved.
Got a motion
Second.
and a second? Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Item number 10 is a resolution that the City of Fairhope approves the procurement for labor for the Creek Drive asphalt road repair by Asphalt Seal Coatings and Concrete for a not-to-exceed cost of $7,100, with city supplying materials. This is also an unbudgeted item. Richard alluded to in the work session that this was based on some drainage repairs they made, and the cut they had to make in the asphalt was larger than originally anticipated, and really no way around it now but to repave that section. So,
Move to approve the procurement
all right,
of the labor.
we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Item number 11 is a resolution that the City Council approves and adopts the following recommendations received by the Government and Economic Development Institute with Auburn University. The Fairhope Personnel Board of Mayor Sullivan have recommended pay increases for the city employees. The Auburn and Personnel Board recommendations, that would be $94,871.70, 5% across the board for all employees, full-time, part-time, and seasonal. $1 to any general government employee who makes less than $15 after the 5% increase, and $1 to any utility employee who makes less than $18 after the 5% increase. There's a total of 23 employees, $12,040, and the dollar increase, and that's specific to the dollar increase not being given to seasonal employees or any part-time employees employed less than 5 years. So additionally, request that full-time employees would receive this. If they're currently new hires and on probationary period, they would receive the 5% raise after the probationary 6-month period has been satisfied. Mayor, would you like to cover this in any more detail?
I would be happy to if you'd like for me to. Yep.
I mean, I think we've got it pretty good,
We
but
talked about it in the work session. I know Councilman Martin, if he had any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
No, I think this is on par. I talked with it this morning on the radio station with Lori. I think this is something that we have to do. So I'm with it.
all right.
Council President, I just want to make the comment that, when we brought this up, and this, I'm really kind of going to talk to the 5% across the board raise, plus the dollar for, those that are due the dollar increase on top of the 5%, is that when we brought this up several weeks ago, we were talking about potentially doing that during the budget time, but we moved it up to try to take care of our employees right now, and I hope that people can appreciate that we're moving it up. But I hate to say this, but I don't think you can expect all that when you get to budget time. You might see merit increases, but I don't think you're going to see 2% and 3% across the board on top of this 5%. We're really doing what we were going to do in the budget time, but we're doing it, several months in advance.
Correct.
Mr. President, just
Yes,
can I
ma'am.
comment on that? No, and I think that we agree with that. I think one thing that's really important is the Auburn study. I mean, being able to bring the people up to the current salary that they should be at based on what Auburn recommended. I think that's a huge hurdle for us because we've been, waiting on the study for a couple years. I think one thing for the leadership team is, when we do an across-the-board increase during the budget cycle, the merit pot is typically a little bit less because we're doing that across the board. Being able to have merit increases really tells the employees that your performance matters. And I think as a leadership team, I think we have agreed that's important for us. And I think so you'll only see merit increases that we're proposing, not anything across the board in the new budget year.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And the annualized cost of this, council, is about $876,000, and I think about $236 to wind down the remaining period of the year. But-
342 to remain the remaining year.
342.
94 plus 12 plus 236.
236 plus the 94, gotcha. Well, I hope that.
Well, no, I'll take that back, Jimmy. The 94 and 12 were both annual numbers, and the 236 was from now
Till
until
the
September
budget
30th.
cycle,
So it's
yeah.
236 plus, what do we got? Maybe 25% of 100, about 25,000.
Okay. And I hope the employees know that that's also being done because we appreciate you. We appreciate your hard work, and we know that inflation's out there, and we want to keep up as best as we can. So y'all are appreciated. All right, council, with any other questions or comments?
So move.
Someone like to make a motion? All right, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Item number 12 was pulled from the council agenda to be reworked and brought back to the next council meeting. Item number 13 is a request from Lisa Daly on behalf of Trinity Presbyterian Church, requesting permission to use site location between the Fairhope Pier and the Duck Pond North Beach Loop for a drive-through nativity scene depicting the Christmas story on December 11th, 2022 from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. The setup of scenes will be required that afternoon, the day of the event, and the takedown of the scenes immediately after the last car drives through. Electricity requested for the event, if not available, can be provided by their own generators. Public restrooms availability requested during the day of the event. And as mentioned, this is something that they've been doing for the last 5 or 6 years at Trinity, and they have had multiple other churches asking to participate, and this was a good location to expand, to allow for that additional traffic flow. So, council, any questions for Lisa, for Paige, or comments in general?
So this is going to be in the circle at the pier? Is that where I'm imagining?
I think it's in between there and the duck pond.
Oh, North Beach, towards that way. Okay, so you go, okay, got it. Okay, very good. Very good. Yeah, okay. It's going to be good. Live animals. I'll bring my baby.
So, if I may,
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Councilman.
Mr. Attorney, you know, at the break, you briefly mentioned single tax use of that, but the South Beach Park that was given by Fairhope single tax and Henry George Park given by single tax both allow for the renting of those parks. So I don't know that Fairhope single tax would.
I don't think there's an issue. I looked at the issue of the church stay issue, but this is a 2-hour window. The city doesn't own this. The city's not putting it on. And we're not endorsing one religion over another one.
Why is it on the
Yeah.
Similar cases dealing with.
Well, because it's not allowed. They have to-
Scenes out in front of courthouses and, I think we're fine with the north
Yeah,
part.
and they're paying security costs and city services cost.
All the services, correct. City's not paying out any money or, to endorse that particular Christmas scene.
So this would just be like any other person that wants to come up and rent.
No, because this is not this is not
I just want to
rentable.
clarify
That's
that.
right. We're not
Because of what now?
endorsing-
Why wouldn't this be like?
Well, we don't normally rent that particular
not.
Yeah,
space.
that's the only reason why you're seeing it is because this is not normally one area that's rented out. Typically, if they wanted to rent the south part, the south part of the park.
Right.
We would never even.
That's
see
right.
it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we-
Henry George Park, South Park, they would just go fill out the application, meet the requirements, pay the money, and if not being used, approved.
But this works well for a drive-through and nativity
I think it's
scene because of
perfect. I'm just trying to clarify.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
All right, any further comments or questions on this?
I move the request permission.
Second,
All right, we've got.
I
a
mean,
mo-
not request to grant permission. Sorry. I was reading the resolution.
We've got a motion and a second on this. Any further discussion, council? All right, hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, no opposed, so the motion carries. Item number 14 is an appointment of the Fairhope Environmental Advisory Board of Darrell Williams for a 4-year term expiring June of 2026. Councilman Martin as
All
the.
good.
All good?
Yes.
All right. Any questions for Councilman Martin, or would someone like to make a motion?
Move to appoint.
All right, we've got a motion to appoint
Second,
and a second. All right, all those in favor of the appointment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Item number 15, this was add-on site plan review and approval, and this is the request of PSGC Properties for site plan approval of Alpha Care, a single-unit clinic. The property is, go to back to item
so go back to
6.
6 now.
Yep.
Okay, so the body of 6 is wrong, got it.
The property is zoned, is a zone PUD and is approximately 1.11 acres, located on the eastern side of Greeno Road, lies south of Gayfer Avenue. The PUD, known as the Greeno Professional Village PUD, requires mandatory site plan and review for each lot. And Planning Commission unanimously voted to recommend to City Council. Staff recommends conditional approval with the one condition is that the clinic shall be approved by the Board of Adjustments. Yes, sir, Hunter.
Thank you. So without reading that summary, that's kind of what we've done here on the cover page. But just to show you, on the left-hand side of the screen is in light blue, shows the boundaries of that PUD that Councilman Conyers referenced. It is split up into multiple lots. And on the right side of the screen shows an aerial of that lot, or that portion of the PUD. where the proposed Alpha Care is shown. The setbacks are defined by the PUD. They are meeting the setbacks. The buildings meet the height limits of 35 feet. It is one-story. Architectural details are on the screen. Materials for that are painted brick veneer, metal roof, and asphalt shingles. The site plan is what we're approving here. That shows your parking spaces, your impervious surface, your 20 feet required of green space on Greeno Road. The landscape plans are referenced here with the overstory trees. This is all within a PUD, so it is buffered. There will be some lighting, that we're looking at to make sure it's not shining into the neighbors to the east. Most of the lighting was done at the roads and kept low, bollard-style lighting. The landscape plan has been reviewed by the city horticulturalist. There's some notes here on parking. If we can ignore those, I'll show you why the conditions were met between the planning commission and tonight. We did receive revised plans, and there is an existing sidewalk at the front of the property. There is a fence provided on the rear side, 8 foot for screening. Dumpsters screened as required. Stormwater is to existing stormwater detention area on the western portion of the property. And we did not review signs, but they will meet the sign ordinances of the city of Fairhope. Although erosion control plan was submitted with the application, code enforcement did not have any comments on that. Utilities have been reviewed. Most were on site, so no way to construct that I know of were there. I think all the utilities were in place when the road was built for the PUD, and/or are available on Greeno Road, since it says front Greeno Road. So we just want to make sure all ADA requirements are to be met, and a traffic study was not required for this particular portion. Did not generate enough traffic to require that. This use is for a clinic, is Board of Adjustment approval for that special exception. And with that said, we did have 3 conditions at Planning Commission. You'll notice the first 2 have been stricken because they have already been met by the applicant in revised plans, and the only condition remaining should be the clinic use shall be approved by the Board of Adjustment. This did come out of Planning Commission with unanimous approval, recommendation for approval, and staff concurs with that recommendation. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Councilman.
Yes, sir, please address.
Yeah, so Hunter, the only thing that I have, just for clarification, and I think you and I spoke about this in the Planning Commission, but I can't remember what we talked about, to be honest. When we use the term clinic to make this work for these guys, does that put them, I know they have to go to the BOA, but do they have to get state regulations as far as a CON or certificate of need?
No,
Do
sir.
we put them in that category?
No, sir. That definition of clinic, similar to assisted living, things like that, may have memory care, nursing care, may have a definition at the state level for things. This is only about the definitions within our zoning ordinance. Clinic and doctor's office are not clear. That is part of the amendments we're making. So this PUD actually allowed doctor's offices. With urgent care, doc in the box, family,
CON.
those have been, we kind of look back at precedent and when a clinic was used versus a doctor's office. And that's kind of precedent based on no appointments, a doctor's office that we've allowed not to be approved without going to Board of Adjustments, kind of like you own a doctor's office. You're going to have patients that are on a schedule and they're going to come in, but when it elevates to walk-ins allowable, multiple doctors that don't necessarily live or own the building or work there permanently on rotation, that kind of becomes a clinic use. So this is mostly 70% walk-ins. We felt it good to send that to Board of Adjustment as a clinic. Nothing to do with state regulations.
No procedural, okay.
So it's a little bit vague, the word clinic. Is it in fact a medical clinic?
That's what I'm, yeah.
It is a doctor. The urology center that we looked at on Greeno Road that was approved across the way at the Green Nursery.
I mean,
that property.
because, my vet works in a clinic too.
Right.
So,
Yeah. We got kennels for that one. We got another Board of Adjustment review for that one. So, that urology center elevated they went to Board of Adjustment for approval.
I think
So it
I
is-
was tracking along with my man, Councilman Martin up here. It was a little vague, wasn't it?
It is, absolutely, admitting
I
the
mean, I
so.
know we're trying to get them there, but I just want to make sure
We do recommend approval
Would be
of the
detailed
planning
oriented.
into the Board of Adjustment, and it's elevated us to make sure we're a little more clear on what our zoning ordinance is. We've inherited the language, so this two back-to-back with the urology and this one, it's time to clarify medical office that more aligns with professional offices versus clinics that can be heavy traffic generators and kind of just a different flavor of what that commercial use is. So it's time to clarify those. You'll probably see some proposals coming soon on that definition.
All right, thank you, sir. Any other questions for Hunter on this? Anyone like to make a motion?
So moved.
Got a motion?
second.
And a second. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, Hunter. At this time, we'll go ahead and open the floor for public participation. This can be about anything you'd like to bring forward to the council. The floor is open. Just approach the microphone, give your name and address, and you got 3 minutes.
Take your time, Ms. Mary. You ain't got to run.
How are you doing this evening?
To the Honorable Mayor, City Council, my name is Queen Watson. I have just recently moved in here at 2815 Bishop Road, Fairhope. That's Graceway Apartments. I'm trying to figure out some things here. I talked with the manager of the apartment as far as about the garbage, the $20 charge for the garbage, and nobody know anything why we don't get garbage service from Fairhope. They have a dumpster there.
It's a good dump.
It's 48 units there.
Yeah.
They have a dumpster, and that picks up the garbage twice a week. And myself, along with the other little old lady, it's just a senior citizen apartment, don't quite understand that. And they said they had been down here, the little old lady say they had been down here. And I said, well, y'all ever been to council meeting? And they said, no. I said, well, I'll try that, so I'm the newbie here. So what we want to know is, why is that charged and we don't get the service?
Is the charge coming from the city?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
Yes, ma'am.
It's coming from the city.
So the garbage ordinance that we have dictates that everybody who lives in the city limits is charged a garbage fee. We have several apartments in town that use a dumpster service versus does not use our garbage service, but they are still charged that $20 fee. I think that Councilman Martin and I know I've brought it up a couple times to be discussed.
Yeah.
To move forward to see if there is an opportunity for us to be able to eliminate that fee for people if they can prove their own Social Security working with those apartment complexes, have them verify the income, and if they do that, because most of them are in income-based housing, then if they do that, they could come in, bring that information, and we could strike that $20 charge from their bill. We would need to amend the garbage ordinance, which is something that's on our radar. So if that's something the council wishes for us to do, then we'd be happy to bring that forward.
Yeah, I thought we did that.
We
when
did not.
Did we just talk about it?
We did. We didn't
Okay,
do
but
it.
we didn't, we never
We
made.
talked
we
about
never
not only
moved on
that, but we also talked about the businesses that use multiple garbage
and up
cans
in theirs,
and
then
up in their
decrease.
fee.
Right, but on the.
Which is fair as well.
Right.
Yeah, but if
So-
you're not using any service.
No, we don't use any garbage.
No,
Yeah, yes,
I'm
ma'am,
with you.
we're with you,
Yeah.
Ms.
And
that doesn't
it's
seem
been
right.
that way for years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about it, but I
We have.
thought when we were looking at that, I think this was in 20, maybe 21, I can't remember.
Yeah, it was
That
last
we
year.
kinda-
It was last year.
It was last year that we did
It was
that
last year.
change.
We did not make that change.
Okay.
And I'm
I mean,
happy to bring it forward and make that change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
that
that's
makes
something that we need
sense.
to look at.
Okay. And we would just need to work with staff to verify, have the income verified,
Very good.
especially in this day
Councilman,
and time. That could be a prescription or food or whatever for these folks. Yeah.
Everybody pretty much on
Absolutely.
board with that?
But your apartment complex pays for the dumpster service, right?
That's
Yes,
correct.
Okay.
Yes,
That's correct.
That's included in our rent, and the apartment manager pays.
They're basically double paying.
And so this charge is coming, they're
From the
paying
city.
the service, but then we, the city, sends them a bill as well?
Correct.
Yeah, we get a
Correct.
bill.
Okay.
But we
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
do anything for them.
We don't do anything for
anything
them. Nope.
Yes,
I mean,
ma'am. I'm
as
just
far as the trash,
clarifying.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
It's in the, yes.
But
That's
we're
what
gonna
it's
work
stated.
on that,
Yeah,
Miss
that-
Mary. We're
Okay,
gonna work on that.
okay.
Yes, ma'am.
They were smart to nominate you to come down and talk to us.
And you look so pretty today,
Well,
as
thank
usual.
you. Also, me being, me being a newbie here, I want to know what district I live in and who's my council person.
You live in all,
We-
there are no districts.
We're
Is
at large.
everybody?
Yes, ma'am. That's a
Okay,
great
'cause
question.
My
Pick you
mayor,
one.
I moved from Daphne. My mayor Daphne told me that I could ask the mayor here anything, and she would be glad to help me.
Yeah, we
And I
like
do
Robin.
believe that. I do, because they have a good mayor down there, and they have a good mayor here, so I heard.
Yeah, we like All right.
So, where are we on this? Y'all gonna talk about it?
I think everybody's pretty much in
I
favor of
think we're in
making
favor of it, but we have to make it official business. So the mayor's gonna bring it to us, and then we'll take care of it.
In essence, you may have this problem for maybe one more month,
That's right.
and then you won't have the problem anymore.
There you go.
Well, it's an ordinance, right?
So,
It's an
yeah,
ordinance.
well,
Yeah, it'll lay.
It
we
takes
can
a little
immediately-
while.
Take a
Might
little
might
while.
take 2 months, but
6 weeks.
it will be worked on where you won't have this problem
By the end
anymore.
of the summer.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing in the city
So
works
maybe
real
40
fast,
hours?
unfortunately. It's just the way it works.
God is good. Thank you.
God is good
Thank
all the
y'all for
time.
your
But it
time.
will work. If you're patient enough, it will work.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I'm gonna be patient. I'm a
Yes,
patient person.
All right, Miss Queen. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
All right. Yes,
I
ma'am.
have a little add-on to that. So I hope that they're going to be reimbursed then every time they were charged $20 until it's taken off. Are we going to reimburse them for their $20 that's been coming out? that they're
Well, I mean,
having
I
to
guess
pay?
the law
we
is the
just-
law
If we
right
could
now,
do
so if
that.
we're changing a law to benefit somebody, we're not gonna
Where they're paying
retroactively
$20 for a
reimburse.
service that they're not getting at all. They're just giving us giving the city $20.
Well,
If you can consider that,
I'm
take
glad
that
it was
into
brought forward to us,
consideration.
but it's been the
To
ordinance up
reimburse
until
them.
now.
Yeah.
Because that's a
Yes,
lot of
ma'am.
money.
I would imagine it was probably put into place at some time to make sure that you had enough customers to justify having garbage collection, probably is
Yeah.
the genesis of that.
We're
And then
gonna
I
look
like the idea of increase the business then that have.
for the multiple cans, yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to give my disclaimer while you're up there. I know no one either. I never gave my disclaimer.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
All right, floor is still open if anyone would like to address the council.